Hey, good morning. Can y'all hear me?
Good morning, yes.
Good morning. This is Ken Cleveland. I'm the director of the medical board. There seems to be a little bit of miscommunication with some of our board members about what time we were starting this morning. And so it may be a few minutes before we get started. I just wanted to give y'all a heads up.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Everyone, we'll open this meeting today. I am David McClendon, the president of the Medical Licensure Board, and this is the executive committee meeting for the Mississippi State Board of Medical Licensure for Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. We'll start with item 1 on our agenda, the Zoom appearance by Dr. Darren Magnacarney. Dr. Magnacarney, are you with us on Zoom?
I am very much here this morning. Thank you for your time.
Can you please explain to us why you're here and what you're requesting?
Yes, I am the Chief Medical Officer for a corporation called Banyan Treatment Centers, and we currently operate 14 freestanding substance use facilities in the country in 8 different states. We have some contracts with Veterans Affairs, and we're interested in providing some telehealth services to veterans that reside in the state of Mississippi. We currently provide veterans service for telehealth services in Florida and Delaware and in California. I am not a resident of Mississippi. I used to be a few years ago, but I'm not any longer. But I would like to be able to offer telehealth services to veterans in our program that live in Mississippi, only for veterans, not for other residents. And I'm requesting a change, I guess a dispensation or the ability to do that, because I think it violates the Mississippi licensure code to provide telehealth services without residing in the state for at least 20 hours. And if you're able to allow us to have that, we'd be very grateful. We provide good services. If not, that's okay. We can hire some local providers to provide the service. But this was the nature of the request, and I certainly appreciate the time. And when I went in person a few months ago, I met and got to see you there. It was tabled, and I'm finally grateful that we're here to discuss this today.
So what's your current practice and where?
Currently, yeah, Banyan, we I am not doing patient care directly. I'm primarily doing administrative work, and I oversee the medical directors that we have all across the country.
So when was the last time that you wrote a note on a patient?
I would say I wrote a note on a patient, a few months ago. Every now and then, I will be consulted on a difficult case, so to speak. So it's probably, within the last 60 days, I've written a note on a patient, but 95% of what I do is administrative at this point.
How many other nurse practitioners do you collaborate with currently?
I currently collaborate with somewhere between 12 and 15 nurse practitioners in the state of Florida.
Which VA facilities are you hoping to have a relationship with?
We have VA contracts all across the country, and it's my understanding that they're interested in the Biloxi Gulfport VA. Again, we have clients in Florida, and we want to be able to expand it into that market.
Mr. President, a point of clarity, he's not talking about treating VA patients at the VA. This would be outside of the grounds of the VA.
Right.
So it would be more of a private practice, even though it's payments.
That is correct. And again, the last thing I would ever do is violate the law or violate the rules in any way, shape, or form. So I'm asking for permission, and if permission is granted, we'll take very good care of these veterans. If permission is not granted, I certainly understand and respect that decision. And then we will focus on hiring and retaining some local providers to help us there.
So there's various models of telemedicine. So give us more detail about
Sure. Again, we'll get patients that get flown in to, let's say, one of our Florida locations from all over the country. And when they finish treatment, they may step down to, intensive outpatient. And we already have a virtual intensive outpatient program. I don't believe it's doing any business in Mississippi, but we do have a virtual intensive outpatient. And then as an offshoot of that, we developed a medication management. So if, they were on, medications for their mood, they could be continued by our telehealth provider doing medication management services. And we're providing that service in Florida. We're providing that service in Delaware. And we started it in California, though it's been a slow growth process there. And our referrals are telling us that we have patients, in the Biloxi area that would benefit from this. And, we were interested in exploring the opportunity to do so. We're not talking about, we don't prescribe controlled substances through telemedicine. It would be, your general run-of-the-mill mental health medications that are not controlled substances.
So you would arrange for these visits just wherever the patient is on whatever digital device that the patient has?
Yes.
Dr. Mangiacarni, who would be delivering the actual care?
Right now, our primary, we have one nurse practitioner who is doing the medication prescribing and doing the televisits right now. Again, in Florida, she's a full-time employee, but she has capacity. She's not seeing a full-time caseload yet. So we would start with her. And again, they're telling us we have volume, until we get into it and start accepting referrals, we don't know how much volume we're going to have. And again, if the volume increases, obviously we would have to hire staff, and my preference at that point would be to hire staff in the state of Mississippi. But we didn't want to bear that expense without actually knowing what the volume is that we're looking at.
And do other states require monthly or quarterly chart reviews with the nurse practitioners?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Our Delaware and our Delaware providers, there's a chart, a specific percentage of charts that are reviewed.
So you're used to doing that, and you're aware of the Mississippi regulations in that regard.
Yes, I don't know off the top of my head how many charts to review. I mean, I can look that up, but I do know that there is a chart review component to that. Yes, sir.
And is the nurse practitioner who is proposing to treat these patients, is she with us today?
She is not with us today.
Could you tell us a little bit about her qualifications?
Well, I could. Don't know if I have a resume in front of her. And actually, I don't have a resume in front of me. She's been working with Banyan, for a number of years prior to me coming on board. She's a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and she's done really good work for us. I mean, if you'd like, I could, if you want to have me invite her to the next meeting, I could do that, and we could bring her to the meeting. But I have confidence in her ability to provide the services that she would be providing.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Dr. Gersh.
Is there going to be intermittent visits from the physician, let's say every second, third visit? Or is it really going to be mostly nurse practitioners?
My friend, I'm sorry that I did not hear exactly what you said, sir.
Now, do you contemplate having the nurse practitioner making all or most of the visits, or do you plan to alternate every second or third visit with the physician?
The way the model's working currently is that the nurse practitioner does the majority of the visits, and when necessary, we'll consult with me for further, to check in, to follow up. But I'm not primarily planning on doing a lot of the visits, but I'm certainly open and willing to do if necessary.
I've had some of my own experience. When I was involved in doing quality insurance with one of the bigger clinics in the state, what I found is when I reviewed sequential nurses from the nurse practitioners that didn't alternate with physicians, their notes had what I call the regression about the mean. Over a period of a couple of years, they started sounding more and more like RN notes rather than nurse practitioner. So I have concerns when we turn this over to a nurse practitioner alone. And I know the clinic I'm talking about wants to have alternate visits in their satellites. What do you think about that?
What do I think about that, sir?
Yes.
Yes, that is something that we can do. I mean, I'm certainly, I've worked with this nurse practitioner for the last 18 months. And I don't have the experience that you have, sir. But her notes have not reverted back to, to a lower standard of care. But, if the requirement of us doing this requires me to do visits, I'm happy and open to doing visits.
And doctor, just to be clear, you have a Mississippi license, but you do not have any other professional involvement with your clinical practice in Mississippi.
At this point, we don't have any clinical practice in Mississippi. We are just trying to see some veterans that reside in the state of Mississippi. So again, we wanted to see if this was a viable solution before we went forward. And like I said, I respect all of you at the board, and if this is something that we can try and we can do, we're happy to do it. If it's not going to work, that's okay. We would just, we'd hire a local team to, and maybe even probably open up a little office there as well. But again, the last thing I would ever want to do would be to put any of your faiths in me in jeopardy. I'm grateful to be able to practice. I'm grateful to have a license. And I take my role very seriously. So, whether or not this goes through, I don't, it's not there's no financial incentives on my end to do this. This is basically, we've been asked by the VA if we can offer the service in Mississippi. They say they have a lot of referrals for us, and we're trying to be of service. And there's multiple different ways of doing this. I just thought this would be the quickest way of starting. Quality is very important to me, and the work that we do, I take a lot of pride in our services that we offer and the quality of our nurse practitioner, as well as our medical staff.
Dr. Manny Carney, this is Ken Cleveland. I'm the director of the medical board. Just
Sorry.
information for the executive committee. Your training is originally in family practice, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I'm board certified in family medicine, and I did an addiction medicine fellowship and became board certified in that as well.
Thank you.
Dr. Mangiacarni, as a regulatory agency, one of our concerns is, enforcing the regulations, and it's one of the issues is that neither you nor the nurse practitioner is located in Mississippi, but so we have to take that into account when we're considering making an exception to the rules. Just wanted to mention that.
And I totally understand that. And you'd be doing me a service, you'd be doing us a favor. And again, the last thing I'd ever want to do is be hey, you let Dr. Mangiacarni do this, so now somebody else is going to come in with a for-profit corporation and try to set up and take advantage of the patients that have a need. So if that's what you're worried about, like I said, I totally understand. And if you're not able to grant us this exception to treat patients only in the VA, I certainly respect that decision, and I understand. And I hope I hadn't wasted any of your time today or previously when you were reviewing the request.
Dr. Owens?
Dr. Mangiacarni, really quickly, can you just encapsulate in like 1 or 2 sentences the scope of services that you intend to provide through this process?
Yes, medication management for, longer term, psychiatric needs and medical needs for patients that don't have access.
So is treatment, because you have a background in addiction medicine, is treatment for substance use disorder included in the umbrella of services that you intend to provide?
I would say yes, but again, we are not providing any buprenorphine products through telehealth. We would provide naltrexone to patients that would benefit from that.
Okay, I just, because when you had mentioned earlier that that you guys didn't provide prescriptions of controlled substances, I was trying to figure out how that would actually work with the treatment of individuals with substance use disorder. And that was, you just answered my question with your response there, because I was trying to figure out how you were doing the buprenorphine management, or if there was buprenorphine or something like that included. So thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome, ma'am. And again, about, depending on the literature you look at, 40 to 60% of patients with a substance use disorder have a co-occurring mental health disorder, and they may need an SSRI, an SNRI, they may need, bipolar medication. And that's sort of the bread and butter of what this telehealth program is servicing. At our regular Banyan facilities, we do provide buprenorphine treatment, but we don't do it over telehealth. And we aren't prescribing ADHD, stimulants through telehealth. So again, I'm happy to put you guys at ease for the scope of what we're doing, but at the same time, I don't want down the road you to be in a position where somebody else comes in and tries to pressure the board based on what you were kind enough to do for us. And I respect that and I understand that.
Doctor, I'm an internal medicine physician in Ocean Springs, and I do basic psychiatric care, and so it seems like you're hamstringing yourself by not being able to provide a full service care for what the patient may need, because sometimes that requires a scheduled medication,
Right.
commonly in the psychiatric population. And so considering you're not meeting the rules, and you even said that you have the potential ability to completely follow the rules and be in compliance with the rules, and that would be the better situation.
I appreciate that. Yes. And we're not doing a lot of controlled substances, just because we understand the rules of telehealth and what the DEA is requesting, especially when the pandemic orders expire next in May. Again, I appreciate all of you and for the time and the consideration, but we do have a valid service to offer, and for what it's worth.
I don't think anyone's questioning your credentials or your professional expertise or your organization or processes, but the rules are here for a reason.
Right.
And And that's where we get into awkward situations if we start relaxing the rules too much.
I understand.
I would entertain a vote if we're ready for that. Motion for executive session.
Let's, I move to we close the meeting to go, to consider whether to go into executive session.
There's a motion to consider to close the meeting to go into executive session. Is there a second?
The second.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? We are now out of executive session and back in a full executive committee meeting. Dr. Lippincott, the secretary of the board, will read the findings of the executive session.
The decision of the executive committee is to deny the request for an exception to the rule, and we would encourage you to provide these services through the usual regulatory process. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Have a good day, Dr. McCartney.
You too. Goodbye.
Moving on to item number 2, Zoom appearance by Ala Adi Shabte, physician assistant applicant.
Yes, hi, good morning.
Good morning. Can you give us a summary of your request, please?
Okay, I'm a physician assistant applying for a Mississippi license, and I got denied because I don't have a master's degree. I have a bachelor's degree. But when I graduated in 2006, a master's was not required to get a PA license. And I also have licenses in several states, and they do not require a master's. And I was asking today, if possible, if I could get a Mississippi license with a bachelor's degree.
Can you tell us about your practice experience and
So
educational background?
Sure, I graduated from St. John's University, and I have a little bit over 17 years experience. I have worked in emergency medicine, urgent care, and telehealth.
Do you have a potential job lined up, or where do you hope to work?
So I do have a potential job lined up. I am currently practicing in Florida, doing the same thing. So all I would be doing is inbounding nursing home patients, basically getting consent from them. I don't do any treatment. I don't prescribe medications. I don't do any of that. I just basically explain them the program that we have. And what it is basically they get enrolled in a program that then later on, there's a group of people that assess their charts for risk management. And they don't prescribe either. They don't do anything. They just let the physician in the nursing home know, hey, these are the suggestions. These are the things they found in the chart that might need to be paid attention to.
You just sounds like a committee.
Go ahead.
Probably speaking to the mic. Mr. Chapman, did I understand you correctly to say that you graduated in 2006? Graduated in 2006. It's not really necessary, but we do want to direct the board's attention to Mississippi statute, section 73-26-3, subsection 4, which governs licensing requirements for physician assistants. Subsection 4 reads, on or after December 31st, 2004, applicants for physician assistant licensure must meet all of the requirements in subsection 3 of this section, and in addition, must have obtained a minimum of a master's degree in a health-related or science field. We all know that not all states require a master's. Mississippi does, and it's by statute. And it is my understanding that this board does not have the authority to waive a statutory requirement.
That's pretty simple.
Ms. Shabto,
Yes.
have you, when did you, do you have a Mississippi license? When you don't have a Mississippi license, is that correct?
No, that's
You're-
correct.
You're applying for one.
I applied for one and I got denied because I don't have a master's.
I see. Did you hear what the attorney said?
Somewhat of it.
Since 2004, Mississippi has required master's degree for PAs. But the thing is, it's a state statute and we don't have the power to grant an exception to a state law. Is that correct, Paul?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, was that clear?
That, that was clear. So now my question is, if that's the case, is there any way in the future to maybe have a hard stop when a PA is applying? If they don't have a master's, to not allow them to go through it fully, because I had spent a lot of money and a lot of time applying for this license that was inevitably going to be denied because of that.
So we allow them to go through, if they're in a master's program, they can apply for the license and get a temp license if they're in a master's program, but we don't have a hard stop for that.
So you want to tell?
You can say.
So we have some some of the staff that's here for the Board of Licensure, just to clarify your question. And the comment was that there's not a hard stop, because if someone is in a master's program and could potentially, through completion of that, be eligible, then they are allowed to apply for a license and then get a temporary license until they complete their master's program and can then be eligible for a license. So that is the reason why there's not a hard stop if a person is enrolled in a master's program.
Right, but it doesn't like give me a clicking option and says, are you applying for a master's option? And then it would hard stop if not. It doesn't do that. It just says continue and give us a waiver letter, and we can see if we can let you go through. It gives you false hope, thinking that you can get a Mississippi license, a bachelor's degree, when you cannot get a Mississippi license on a bachelor's degree. I think that needs to be very specific on the site, because now when I apply for licenses, I'm going to have to tell them I got denied from Mississippi every time, which that could have been prevented. The money could have been prevented. The time to do all these verifications with all my other states could have been, prevented as well.
We appreciate your feedback, and we'll certainly look at our processes and see if there's any opportunity.
I was gonna say, actually, it's my understanding that is incorrect. When you are denied, an initial application for licensure is denied for a technical reason, such as simply not meeting statutory requirements, you are not required by most states to report that. It is not a reportable event in the database. It's only reportable if you're denied because of a disciplinary type ground. So I would explore that with an attorney would be my recommendation, but I actually do not think you would have to report this.
So did you?
And I'm not your lawyer, so please seek your own counsel.
Were you able to hear that?
I heard it. I guess I got the wrong information, because when I got denied, I was told that I have to disclose it. So if that's the case and I don't have to disclose it, that's fine.
Right. So the point of disclosing is that if there was any type of disciplinary action against your license in the past, this was not a disciplinary action. This was an administrative barrier that I think any reasonable board would understand that this is, it's not because you state in the past.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for us?
No other questions. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Do we need to make any official decision?
Their license
It's
is
really
denied.
a
We're
moot
not doing
point, yeah.
anything
Yeah.
different to it.
Okay.
So. Is this just
All
a
right, we will
clarification?
move on.
Like to appeal my decision.
So
no matter
was this formally an appeal request?
Yes.
So then we probably do need one. If it was a formal appeal request, and we'll just say, move to deny due to the statutory requirements for the state of Mississippi and code, yada, yada, blah, blah, what he just said. Then I would move to uphold the denial and just deny the appeal request.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 3, Zoom.
Actually, that should be personal appearance.
Okay, appearance by Dr. Gopinath Perumal, applicant for medical license. Dr. Perumal, do you have counsel with you today?
You have
Dr. Perumal, could you come to the stand, please? Good morning. Please, if you could identify yourself and then help us understand what your request is.
So my name is Gopinath Perumal. I applied for the Mississippi State Medical Permanent License. I was denied on the basis of I brought an ACTME fellowship in America, but I have done 3 years of non-accredited fellowship in 2 programs in UCSF California, San Francisco, California, and TCH in Baylor. Both have a ACTME fellowship program in their programs. And I also have rich experience of congenital cardiac surgery, 9 years in India, Australia, and in the US. And I'll be bringing the experience of bag and transplant for small kids.
Where are you currently working?
Currently, I work at Texas Children's Hospital at Houston.
As a pediatric cardiovascular surgeon?
Yes.
How many years have you been there at that location?
In Texas for the last year and 1 month.
And what do you hope to do in Mississippi?
In Mississippi, I'll be a congenital cardiac surgeon working along with Dr. Bush, doing the entire spectrum of congenital cardiac surgery, including pediatric ventricular assist device and heart transplant.
And they'll obviously be at the Children's Hospital at University of Mississippi
Yes,
Medical
that's the
Center.
only place where we'll be practicing.
Just for the executive committee information, Dr. Chris Anderson, who is the chair of the Department of Surgery, did write a letter recommending this approval for him.
So at least from a maternal fetal medicine perspective, one of the things that I will say is that we have, the program at the University of Mississippi Medical Center has kind of gone through over the past 15 years, several ups and downs with respect to congenital cardiac surgery. We, had a situation where there was an intensive effort to kind of create and build a team. They identified people, and then through attrition and other things, it's ebbed and flowed. There's an incredible need. We've worked collaboratively. Texas Children's is a referral center, at least from the MFM standpoint. We send the babies that can't really be handled here. That's one of the major referral centers for our babies. They've been wonderful partners for us. And They really do an outstanding job. I have some really good friends in the MFM division at Texas Children's, and can't say enough for the way that they worked as a collaborator with us over time. There still remains a huge need. That's something that I think since I first came to Mississippi, we've always had an issue with being able to provide consistent care for our heart babies. And I think it's a big need in a place where there's a lot of opportunity in Mississippi, at least for growth and to, you know, to not have to send those babies out. And I think for a while we were doing that. But I think that we have a pretty good volume, and it's a lot for one person. I think it's pretty much always been too much for one person. And so it just makes, I mean, it makes me excited just to see that there's someone who has the desire and the skill set and the training to come and be a part of this team. Because, you know, that the whole center around pediatric and the pediatric surgery group at UMC, they're hard workers, and we have such a high malformation rate within our state, considering our population. I think it's a great thing. But I mean, that's kind of like through the biased lens of a maternal fetal medicine person. There's a huge need. These guys work really, really hard. They got a great team around them to kind of help provide care for these families, a really holistic process through the fetal center. And so I get excited when I see somebody who has the skills to come and be able to contribute and be a part.
And just to add for the record, further recommendation letters come from Dr. Philip Birch, who's Chief of Pediatric and Congenital Cardiac Surgery at the Mississippi Children's Hospital. Dr. Christopher Calderon, Professor of Surgery at Texas Children's Hospital, wrote a strong letter of recommendation. And then Dr. Vinica Ball from Queensland Children's Hospital. Forgive me for my geography. Is that Australia?
Yes.
They're almost like a unicorn. They're not a bunch of them flying around. Right. And if they are flying around, they don't typically fly around places like, you know, Mississippi. So I think it's great.
Any
Mr.
further?
President, I've seen in the past, the board give limited institutional licenses in these situations.
Yes, we have. Any further discussion for this request?
So you're requesting an unrestricted license, is that correct? And do we need to discuss this any further?
If we do, it should be an executive session.
Oh, okay.
We also have unrestricted license in Virginia and Ohio.
Sure.
And just for the record, Doctor, have you had any negative actions against your license in your career?
Not really.
Not really?
No, I don't have any.
Sure. Dr. Anderson, could you come before us, please?
So those of you who don't know me, I'm Chris Anderson. I'm chair of the Department of Surgery. I helped Dr. Bill Birch, our chief of congenital heart surgery group. I'm just here in support, and I wanted to speak to some of the questions. Like Dr. Owens, I do think he's a little bit of a unicorn, well trained, and he's in a piece of our congenital heart program that needs strengthening is the transplant and ventricular assist device aspect. He does bring those talents that will help us, and he also is a second heart surgeon. In my, for what it's worth, in my assessment and vetting of him, the cumulativeness of his training at both the international and the United States programs he's been at would exceed most of the ACGME congenital heart training programs in the US. The curriculum he trained in San Francisco would be the same curriculum that the ACGME pathway would have used. He was just in honest training. In some aspects, that gives the community a little bit of an advantage because they can practice more independently than the ACGME fellow in certain programs. For example, I experienced that in my own specialty of transplant. That fellowship is not ACGME approved, and so I functioned at a different level than the ACGME restricted fellow program. The final thing I'll offer is that the American Board of Thoracic Surgery has recognized individuals like Dr. Vermeil. And there is a pathway for him to board eligibility. That pathway includes working in an academic center for multiple years. It has to be an LCME accredited academic medical center, which we are, of course. And after a track record of 3 years, high productivity, educational and academic, he will be eligible to be board certified by the American Board of Thoracic Surgery. So even though he is not ACGME trained, technically speaking, he is board eligible for the American Board of Thoracic Surgery. I'm happy to take it.
Thank you for coming before us.
Thank you for your.
Then I have a motion. Are we gonna do minutes yet, or-
There is a motion.
Wait. Uh, okay, yeah, so move to close the meeting and determine whether to go into executive session.
There is a motion to consider the closed.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're now out of executive session and back in a full meeting for the executive committee. Dr. Lippincott, the secretary of the board, will read the findings of the executive session.
The executive committee has approved your request for an exception to the rule and is granting a limited institutional license so that you will have the pathway for an unrestricted license. As the board has historically done in similar situations, although we've rarely had applicants with your exceptional qualifications and recommendations, and we thank you for coming.
Any further questions Dr. Cleveland can answer? But you.
Was that
Thank you.
was that clear?
He does. He does. No confusion. They're like, yeah.
They just cut on people.
I can understand. Forward. All right. Yes, Rose girls. Are we gonna wait for him? Are we gonna move on?
For the sake of time, I'll go ahead and move forward. Moving on to item number 4, Zoom appearance for applicant physician assistant Michelle Boyer. Michelle, are you with us? Can you hear us?
Yes, I am here. I can hear you. Good morning.
Ms. Boyer, can you explain to us what you hope to do today?
Sure. I am requesting to get a Mississippi license with a bachelor's degree.
Can you tell us about your training, your history, your educational background, and what you hope to do?
Of course. Prior to getting accepted into Nova Southeastern University in 1998 for a PA program, I was in the National Guard as an Army medic. I did that part-time and also worked as a medical assistant for a FAA provider who did medical exams. I completed my PA program in July of 2000. There was also a master's in public health that was offered because back in 1998, there were not a lot of master programs out there. In fact, that was a unique dual option that they had offered. And in my waiver letter, I did write that I participated in that public health program and I completed all of the courses, but did not complete the thesis, which, as I noted, I don't I don't mean to blame that on a bad marriage, but that was a tough time where I did not complete the thesis. They actually let me walk across the stage and get the master's diploma, but they actually did not physically award that. Nonetheless, moving forward, I got a job right out of graduation and in a neurosurgery group in Florida. I worked there for 2.5 years and moved to Arizona, where I've been for the last 20 years. And worked in orthopedic spine surgery, physiatry, pain management, orthopedic trauma. And my family has been trying to relocate back to Louisiana/Mississippi, where my husband's family is. And so that is why I applied for the Mississippi license. I do not have a job lined up. I just was hopeful that I would have that before I went and applied for jobs.
Paul, can you, for the record, discuss what I presume is the similar findings of a previous case?
Yes, sir. Dr. McClendon, thank you. As we noted earlier in the meeting with a different applicant, the requirement of a master's degree is not merely a regulatory matter or regulation passed by the board. It's a statutory requirement, section 73-26, 73-26-3, subsection 4 requires that on or after December 31st, 2004, applicants for physician assistant licensure must meet all the requirements in subsection 3 of the section, and in addition, must have obtained a minimum of a master's degree in a health-related or science field. There is some grandfather language in the statute, but all the grandfathering has been finished for at least 20 years. So there's no exception to this statutory language, and it is my understanding that the board does not have the authority to waive or grant an exemption to a statutory requirement. On the second one.
Ms. Boyer, were you able to hear our counsel?
Yes, I was.
So it appears that our hands are tied also, where there are some situations where we provide waivers, but that the way that the law is written, that this is not a policy or administrative rule that we are able to make exceptions for, but that this is a deeper law that we are not able to provide an exception for.
There is one statutory exception that could apply. If a PA moves to Mississippi and becomes a resident, then they can qualify to receive a Mississippi license under the sort of license portability rules that now are in effect for PA. So that is the one situation. But you have to move to Mississippi first.
That them and have established residence here in Mississippi.
I don't work with the director.
Is there a physician assistant compact that will apply?
No, not it. No.
So then she has the ability, she can do it, but she'd have to establish residency and then reapply.
Ms. Boyer, what our counsel just said, that if you do physically move to Mississippi or have a residence in Mississippi,
Mhm.
that does open up the possibility to reapply and be considered again.
Okay, right. And actually, my husband and I were thinking about that before getting a license, but I thought that would be a little tough. Like, okay, where would we go? We would find a house and then I'd have to find a job right around there. But I understand, I appreciate that. At least it leaves the door open, but it does make it hard. Mississippi is a very large, beautiful state where there's, you could live in one place but find a job elsewhere, but that's acceptable. I mean, in the sense that at least that leaves something open for me. And I would have to reapply again as an initial applicant, or would it be like,
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And our board staff could get you more information about that ability once you get your Mississippi residence, just so hopefully you can make decisions with confidence if you do decide to move forward with that.
Okay, so,
Our system would allow for us to transfer most, if not all, of your information to the new application. So you wouldn't have to go through the whole process again. Right.
that would be wonderful. That was a long process. The last time I applied for a state license, back in 2002 when I relocated to Arizona. So a lot of things have changed since then. So.
Okay. We need to make just an official decision.
I'm moved that we deny the request due to the statutory requirements of Mississippi Code 7326-3.
Subsection 4.
Is there a second? Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The motion carries. So, Ms. Moore, we do hope that you choose to live and work in Mississippi. We just have these rules for safety reasons, and you have a wonderful past experience, and hope you're able to work things out and kind of work in Mississippi.
Well, I'm thankful and hopeful that yes, that door at least is open. I don't feel like it's slammed shut. So thank you. Appreciate your time today.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you, you too.
Any further business for the executive committee? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion carries. We adjourn.
Do you have